All right, hello, Blackhawk Brigade, students, staff, fans, and friends. This is Luke Ellsworth, Director of Bands, and thought I would check in with you here tonight on July 12th, Sunday night, and just kind of give you an update of our current situation and where we are, and some important information. This information will also be on a Skyward message and remind. We'll put it on Classroom and all of our various contact sites. I'll make sure I mention how to find those a little bit later. But our current situation is where we are right now is we've already had a week of rehearsal. We're moving into our second week of rehearsal. And, really we're trying our best to move forward in the situation that we're in. That situation could change week to week. I've had a lot of people ask, is there going to be a season? Are we going to continue practicing? Really, I don't have the answers to those questions right now. Only that we are moving forward with what we can. And as of right now, we are going to move into that second week of rehearsal. And so if I can show you that really quick. Um, that's kind of our current situation. And again, we just have to be really flexible, and we have to be willing to deal with the situation the best we can. Things are changing daily, and I can't predict what might happen this week or following week. So we're just going to go forward until someone tells us differently. And right now, that's where we're at. But please stay vigilant. We've done a really good job that first week on our face coverings and social distancing, but we're going to try to talk about a few things that we could do a little bit better job of this coming week. As I mentioned before, one of the most important things for every season, but for this one in particular, is to stay in contact and to make sure that you have all of the updated information. And so what we use to do that is we use an app called Remind. Each summer, the Remind app automatically will add students and parents and guardians into the new classes for the next year. And that happened last week. So if you're on the old Remind, you may have been added automatically to the new one, or you might need to add yourself. I'm not going to make that information available here on social media, but if you need it, it should be in Classroom and Skyward, or you can just ask me and we'll get you on the Remind app. But it's a text messaging service that will give you reminders or special alerts, and you can also contact directly with me, but we don't share any phone numbers or anything like that, and everything's logged. It's school approved. So you really need to get on that if you or your student is in band. We also utilize Skyward, and we use that messaging system as well. You usually receive emails from that. We also use Google Classroom. So I try to put that information on all three areas and also on the Facebook page as well. So just make sure that you are staying in contact, that you're contacting me directly if you have questions, and I think that will definitely help situations. So what we're going to talk about next is actually some procedures that we need to follow. And some of these we're already doing, some of them we tried to do, but we need to do a better job of these to stay safe and healthy. So up first is we are going to continue wearing our face coverings. You need to have those on when you're not in the middle of a physical rehearsal. I would recommend that guard and percussion consider wearing those face coverings at all times, whether you're indoor or outdoor, since you're not going to be required to use your mouth, for those, those sections. All students and staff need to wear face coverings when we're on break or when we're inside when possible. And we did a great job with that last week. Students did a nice job. We need to continue social distancing and using the recommendations that we're giving our students and our staff, trying not to congregate within sections or in closed situations, try to stay 6 feet apart, and we'll try to continue doing that. Our procedures with water and food, we did change the water situation this week. It was just too difficult to continue disinfecting and filling those water jugs that we've provided. So we did let the students take those home. We are expecting them to disinfect those themselves every day and then fill those back up and bring those with them. It's really important that we make sure that we bring those back. That's going to be our only source of hydration with the water fountains off. And obviously food, we're not doing any kind of food, bringing in any items right now. When we get to band camp, then the boosters are going to provide a snack on that situation. And then obviously we just need to continue washing our hands and using hand sanitizer when available, and do that all the time. Something that we've tried to do that we're going to do a little bit better job of this next week is we're going to have to ask students as they report in for practice some questions just to make sure that we are identifying if anyone is being tested for COVID-19 or is displaying symptoms from it. So first of all, the symptoms are a fever, a cough, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, chills, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, or a new loss of taste or smell. And so when the students come in, I am going to ask them, do you exhibit any of those symptoms? We're going to check with them almost every day. Not almost, we are going to check them every day for those. Parents, I would recommend that you ask your child that every day as well before you bring them in. We're also going to ask them if they've been in contact with someone currently being tested for COVID-19 or who has tested positive. And it's really important that we answer those questions, honestly and accurately every day. If the student would answer yes to any of those questions, then we're going to send them back home. So you might want to consider, if you're bringing your student in, you might want to consider waiting until we get through those questions before you take off. Another question that's come up, as we are going into more of a testing situation here locally is, what do we do if someone that we know is being tested or if you yourself is being tested as a student? So the first thing that's important is that you need to report any pending tests for a student or a contact person or a person that the student has been in contact with directly to me or directly to Mr. Ellsworth. I need to keep that information. I need to log it. So it's really important that we keep a good contact with each other about that. And these are state recommendations and school recommendations, and the school might release additional ones later as we get closer to the start of school. But this is just what we're using as a band right now to try to stay as safe as possible. If a student would test positive or has been in contact with an individual that tests positive for COVID-19, then they would need to quarantine for at least 10 days, or they can provide 2 negative test results. So just keep that in mind, and we will remind you if that situation comes up once you contact us. Likewise, if a student has been in contact with someone that is in the middle of or the process of being tested for COVID-19, then the student needs to stay home from practice until that pending test result is negative. So that again is really important. If you have been in contact with someone who is now being tested and those test results aren't in yet, then make sure that you're not reporting in for practice until we know the results of those tests. It's just a safe way to make sure, that we're not exposing others until we find out that information. So, that's kind of an update on our procedures, and we're trying to do the best we can. We're basing our decision making, when we talk to the school administration and we talk to our local health department, and we're trying to move forward as safely as possible. And again, we'll do that until we're told that that's not the best course of action. And again, I can't predict what might happen, but again, my goal is to always keep all students and staff and friends of the program, everyone I come in contact with, as safe as possible. And so just keep that in mind, that we are making decisions on trying to be as safe as humanly possible in this situation and still proceed with our season. Something else that we need to do is we need to make sure that we are, let me see if I can put this in the stream here, that we are filling out our forms. the forms. It looks like maybe I'm losing the audio when I'm showing the forms. Thank you, Jeremiah, for letting me know that. So basically, just going back here, and someone give me a heads up if we got audio back now. It'd be great if it's good now. Just kind of going back here, this is the student information form, and we just need to fill that out so that we know how to contact everyone. It gives you some information about what positions you might want to help us with. And then, as I said earlier, which maybe you didn't maybe get to hear, we have currently put on hold chaperone and box parent duties as of right now until we get some further information about that. We have our field trip release form as well. So this is if we would travel, we would need to have this completed so that we can take the students places in the fall. We have our medical form, which is really important this year. It's always important, but this year is a little bit more important. So please fill that out. And we have our tape and photograph form, our release form. We will get videoed if we go to competitions. They'll video each student. Sometimes there's close-up videos, and so we need to make sure that we have permission to do that. Where I was here a second ago is just talking about our procedures again. So I included this form. We have the symptoms again as to what to look for to make sure that students aren't showing up with these symptoms. And then just some additional information of what we're trying to do to make this as safe as possible. And you can review those with your student. This form here is something that we have to complete in order to participate this year. This is a waiver and release form. All athletes are doing this as well. This is something that the schools asked me to include. So make sure that you turn all these forms in here so that we can move forward with the season there. All right, let's see what else we have. I think that really kind of covers everything that I was wanting to cover this evening. Again, just to reiterate, this is just going to be a really unusual season, and daily and even weekly, we are going to be experiencing things that might slow us down, but are very important as we move forward in our procedures. And again, as I've said before, we just have to keep everything in perspective. We're trying our best to be safe. We're also trying to move forward, as the state is suggesting, as our schools are suggesting, with some of our co-curricular and extracurricular activities. And we're going to continue doing that until we receive information that we shouldn't. And so that's where we are right now. As things change or if they get updated, I will make sure that I give you all that information. As I've said earlier, we'll give you all that information as we go to band camp. We'll use the Remind apps. We'll use all those kind of forms of communication. So I think that's all I've got here for this evening. You're welcome to always contact me via email or the Remind app if you have any questions or concerns, and we'll just kind of keep moving forward as best we can. But just make sure that you are checking your contact information on a daily basis, just for any important messages that we might have to send along. So sorry we had some audio problems there. Hopefully that won't affect the video too much. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll see you guys at the online virtual practices tomorrow. Have a great one.